Retro game collecting is all the rage. People are paying $500 for Kuon. I'd pay you to not play Kuon. What I do love to play, however, is Fighting Force. Originally envisioned as Streets of Rage 4, Sega said nope, so developer Core Design made a deal with Eidos to publish their new, unique IP. They named it Fighting Force. Released a long time ago, Fighting Force also got a PC release, but I think most of us are familiar with the PlayStation version. It's one of the earliest 3D beat-em-ups and is both really impressive and also a big letdown. See, the year prior, Core Design released Tomb Raider, which everyone loved, and Swagman, which I didn't look up reviews for, but I assume everyone hated, because it's called Swagman. Listen, the point is, there was hype around Fighting Force, so while it was unique and graphically very impressive, it also wasn't as good as Core Design's other games. You start the game by choosing your fighter, and the gang's all here. You got 90s man, Big McLarge Huge, Girl 2. I gotta go with Hawk, because he was the only returning character for the sequel. Yeah, they made a Fighting Force 2. Did you know that? I've never played it though. Anyway, the first level starts in the streets of New York. A helicopter drops you off and you start punching guys in suits. There's almost no cutscenes and no real story. Well, there is a story, but it's only in the manual. I can't speak to the other versions of the game, so maybe they differ. The manual talks about Dr. Dex Zong? I can't pronounce this. Anyway, he's infuriated. Not just all caps, but yellow caps too. It says he was a government agent who thought the world would end in 2000. Turns out that didn't happen, so now he's gone crazy. He's attempting to cause the end of the world himself. How? It doesn't say, but we're the Fighting Force, so we'll stop him. It's worth keeping in mind that this game was released in '97. The year 2000 was constantly used as a marketing gimmick at the time. Anyway, it's got a plot that's about on par with Streets of Rage games, though I wish they included some more cutscenes. The game never feels too cheesy when I think it should. It's a little too neutral, which keeps it from having a memorable personality. There are fun set pieces in some of the levels though, like this first level when the camera shifts to show a van full of enemies pulling up to fight you. I still remember it more than 25 years later, which is a really depressing thought. It's been 25 years. What am I doing with my time? Speaking of vans full of enemies, you gotta beat them up with some simple controls. X for punch, square kick, circle jump, which I'm convinced has zero purpose, and triangle for back fist, or attacking enemies behind you. You can also use it to grab onto enemies who are blocking, at which point you can punch, kick, or throw. You can also use a special AoE move that sacrifices some of your health. Each character has their own movesets, but it's incredibly simplistic. You also can't combine punches and kicks. You either punch once, twice, or 3 times, same for kicks. So you effectively have 2 combos. It's a short game, but that does get old fast. It does get a little spicier using the environment though. For example, you can destroy the van and grab a tire. Grab a tire. You can grab a tire. You can grab— God damn it! Although you do get 4 characters to choose from, they're not that different. I think the big guy, Smasher, is slower and hits harder, but I can't really tell. I'd need to really play them side by side to see if there's any differences. The main thing are moves, but they're effectively the same, they just look different. It is keeping in line with older beat-em-ups, but it does feel stale. I mean, this isn't the early 90s anymore. It's the late 90s. Anyway, I assume this is the doctor's lab we're busting into, and inside is full of all kinds of fun surprises. Boxes with guns, fire extinguishers, and refreshing nondescript cola. It's a cute continuation of food healing the player, which is something I didn't realize I missed in modern games. It might seem silly to whip out a fully cooked chicken leg in an otherwise serious game, but I don't think it needs to be. It's a callback to healing in games like Castlevania, even if unintentionally done. The only modern games I know that still do this trope are Japanese games like Monster Hunter. There are health packs in the game, but they act the same as food items and nothing can be brought with you. This causes some tense situations where you're low on health and praying that the next bad guy you beat up drops a hot dog. The music isn't that remarkable, but it also doesn't need to be, and its elevator music goes really hard. I don't have the musical background to describe the soundtrack with any real good words, but it's good, thumbs up. Not only does it fit the game's tone, but it's also peak 90s. It has lots of 80s influences, with a dash of cyberpunk. Lots of hard beats, synths, and sound effects, and I like how the street boss's theme incorporates police sirens. While the music is pretty good, the sound is arguably more iconic. It carries over a lot of similar styles from classic 2D beat-em-ups. Hitting enemies gives a satisfying whomp noise. Enemies give repetitive but still charming grunts when taking damage, and all the levels have ambient music that add a touch of fun. Arriving subway trains rattle along rusty tracks, helicopters buzz above city streets, and faint traffic can be heard passing by in the background. It adds a lot of meat to the world. Dr. Zeng's at the top of his penthouse, but he makes a quick getaway. It's too early for a final boss fight. I love how the windows blow out, the VTOL picks him up, and the papers fly out of the room as you're attacked by his sexualized bodyguards. It's something that's a bit distasteful today, but I find it too ridiculous to be taken seriously. Like the food items that heal you, I think leaning into the silly is the best course of action for games like Fighting Force. It's stupid but sincere, which makes it charming. Back on the city streets, bikers attack on motorcycles. Though they just end up crashing into walls, which just adds to the ridiculousness. Also, enemies aren't afraid to attack you at the same time, which can get frustrating, but that's when you use your AoE special attack. The game loves to stun lock you, which can get annoying, but it never gets too bad. Graphically, the game is pure low poly, and I love it. The subway bus seats are given false shadows just by using darker colors on the textures, and purple textures are used as makeshift neon lights. Everywhere you look, you'll find a ton of small, intentional touches. If you're a fan of low poly, I think it's a must play just for that alone. I especially like the 2D cityscape in the background. It's one of those games where your imagination fills in the blanks, and playing it made me feel like a child again. We also need to talk about Fighting Force's explosions. They have no business being this good. The smoke, debris flying all over the place, the screen flashing white, and the punchy sound effects. These are really satisfying explosions. Speaking of explosions, the game's got guns too, but I'm not that good with them. My aim's so bad, you'd think I was at a Trump rally. Hello? Are you still there? Hello? You can also choose the next level in some spots. They all lead to the same place, of course, but it incentivizes replaying the game just to see every potential path. Levels occasionally have an end boss, which can be trivial if you have a gun, or obnoxious as you struggle to figure out the intended way to beat them. For example, we got Vulcan, who shocks you if you get too close. And he shocks you if you get too far, and is generally just a massive pain. Luckily, the enemies never get as bad as Vulcan. There's these gooners with massive right arms which stun you, though they're relatively weak with low health. If I did have a complaint for Fighting Force, it would definitely be the lack of a moveset. I get it's a beat 'em up and not a character action game, but even at an hour playtime, I got bored of spamming the same punch or kick combo. The weapons and enemy variety helped, but it wasn't enough. There are no environmental hazards either, which I think is a huge missed opportunity. I want to kick guys off ledges. Thankfully, Dr. Zeng's fight ain't half bad. He plays like another player character, so there's no real gimmicks. Just avoid his attacks and punch him more than he punches you. It's worth mentioning there's no block or dodge button either, so you just kinda have to try your best. After traveling to Dr. Zeng's island retreat, you beat him up, take him into custody, and then escape via helicopter as his base explodes. It's the only real cutscene the game has, because again, no real story, which is fine, I guess. The game ends with him in an island prison, because we're not murderers. Maybe. I really like Fighting Force. I don't love it, but it's hard not to be nostalgic for it. It's simple fun, and if you have friends, it's a great way to spend an hour or two.